Welcome back to the Mugello circuit here in Tuscany in Italy for round 2 of the Ferrari Challenge season 2016. It's race 2 for the TropheoPirelli cars, and there the Octane 126 logo, the breakfast of champions, as indeed Bjorn Grossman is the current TropheoPirelli champion. We're at Mugello then for round 2. Still to come, Le Mans as support of the 24-hour race, then Sochi in Russia, Hockenheim and Jerez in Spain, and then the World Finals to come. The glittering World Finals in Daytona, USA, right in December. The grid is assembling then of these TropheoPirelli cars in one of the most picturesque locations for a racing circuit anywhere in the world, I would think. Mugello here, and as the pin shows you, we are right in the middle of Italy, and what a backdrop we have to this 5.2 kilometer circuit, which features some 14 turns and is very undulating, with elevation changes like you would not believe. There is the Hublot safety car, driven by the 1999 TropheoPirelli champion, Beppo Scanetti. Air temperature is 17 degrees, track temperature 28 degrees. The weather conditions, as you can see, some high cloud, blue sky, and sunshine, and that is not what was predicted for this afternoon. We were expecting rain. We do not have that. Therefore, all the drivers will be starting on slick tyres for what will be undoubtedly a fast-paced race all the way through from green to the checkered flag. Some 30 minutes of racing to come from the Ferrari Challenge TropheoPirelli cars here at the Mugello circuit. The pole sitter is the TropheoPirelli champion, Bjorn Grossman, who runs with number 1 by dint of the fact that he is the champion. And there you can see the heat haze through our lens as we look back at the grid assembling right now, and some of the spectators here to enjoy the race action to come. There is Bjorn Grossman then being congratulated for his pole position by our safety car driver. So Bjorn Grossman from Octane 126, the German driver, TropheoPirelli champion last year, and put the car on a pole position today and took a race win yesterday. P2, this is the talking point. Sam Smith from the UK, an AM driver, has put that car in P2. We have 2 categories of driver within the TropheoPirelli class of Ferrari Challenge. We have the pro drivers and the AM drivers, and Sam Smith, by far and away the quickest of the AM drivers, goes from P2. P3, here's Marcello Puglisi then, who is another pro driver. You can identify pros and AMs by the little graphics to the left-hand side of the nameplate that you will see. And this is David Gosner, another one of these pro drivers. He goes from P4, and here comes a postcard of Mugello. So just a little indicator of what the Mugello circuit is like. There's Florian Merckx, who was in TropheoPirelli last year, and his team boss was Philippe Barron, who is the driver that's wearing the crash helmet now and is in that number 91 car driving for Rosso Corsa. But the roles are reversed when it comes to the Asia Pacific Championship, where Philippe Barron, he engineers and manages Florian Merckx. Philippe then made his debut in the 458 Challenge in Imola in 2012. There you go. And there is car number 27, Alessandro Vezzoni, a former AM driver who's been elevated to pro for season 2016. Alessandro Vezzoni was the TropheoPirelli AM champion in season 2015. Some nice camera art there. The reflection from the media center window shows you the number 92 car of Sam Smith that is going from P2. Martin Nelson had a torrid time of it yesterday, and he goes from P7. That is Martin Nelson, the Scuderia Autoropa driver. Fantastic livery that adorns those Scuderia Autoropa cars, and that is Jan Danis then going from P8 on the grid, the Scuderia Prague driver. And there is Beppe that I was talking about. Back in 1999, he won the TropheoPirelli Championship, and now he is our official safety car driver. Had the privilege of being taken round a track by that very man, and boy, what a driver he is. They're looking back from the Hublot safety car at the grid as it is assembled. This is race 2 then. Race 1 took part in the sunshine also yesterday. As we went from red to green then in TropheoPirelli race number 1, Philip Barron up on the inside then. It was Bjorn Grossman that converted his pole position into the race lead. Sam Smith being hung out to dry a little bit around the outside and was going to have a lot of work to do, but he set about that challenge really rather well indeed. Philip Barron and Mugello Puglisi then trading places during the course of the race, and this was Alessandro Vezzoni and Jan Danis getting together, which ended up with Danis going through the beach, the grass, and then back onto the tarmac once again. And from our helicopter, there you can see the effect of just a little touch. One of these high-powered 458 cars. David Gosner, in his quest for Philip Barron, saw himself in the gravel as well. It was a big save from David Gosner, and a very, very good one at that. The brake disc lit up on the Bjorn Grossman car on his way to yet another victory, and he took the checkered flag to win race 1 here in Mugello. We look at the Andreas Segler car, number 32, with a very interesting livery. Andreas Segler then going from P10 on the grid for the Style F Squadra Corsa driver. And Peter Noflak then, another one of the AM drivers. Final stages of preparation for the Kessel Racing driver, Peter Noflak then. And that very interesting on-board shot of David Gosner. We had the privilege of those shots yesterday, and you can see the car about to be started. And there, the Tommaso Roca car, identical in livery to that of Philippe Barron. So Tommaso Roca, who was on the podium for the AM category yesterday, and we'll be hoping for much the same today. And there, our helicopter then about to get into the air to bring us some fantastic shots during the course of this race. And we are but a few moments away from the lights going from red to green. So then just moments away from the race starting. It's a typical rolling start for the Ferrari Challenge cars. The safety car will peel off in 1 minute and 20 seconds time. And then the cars will follow, and then rolling start all the way to the green lights and turn number 1, which is the very challenging San Donato turn. You go into it downhill, it's a right-hander, and then you have to go uphill as well, which if you're stuck on the outside of that turn, it's very difficult to make a move work, although some have done it. And that is John Ferrano that we're looking at now, going from P9 on the grid with the Gulfoil liveries across his 458, and then right to the very back of the pack, you can see the medical car, which always follows on the formation lap. There's our helicopter up in the air, high in the sky, ready to bring us some fantastic images. Bjorn Grossman, Sam Smith, the front row of the grid, the spectators here, enjoying the relatively mild weather conditions. Certainly not as warm today as it was yesterday, but thankfully it is dry, it isn't raining. So the safety car roars away then, and in but a few seconds time the cars will follow. Here comes the grid info for you. Bjorn Grossman from P1. Then it's Sam Smith, a Stratson Ferrari engineered by FF Corsa, going from P2. Mugello Puglisi goes from P3 for Rosso Corsa with David Gosner, the Inico MP racing driver, P4. Then it's Philip Barron, Alessandro Vezzoni and Martin Nelson and Jan Danis, and the Ps and the AMs to the left-hand side of the graphic, indicating whether they are pro or AM drivers. John Ferrano, P9, Andreas Segler, P10. Then it's Tommaso Roca, P11, with Peter Noflak for Kessel Racing going from P12 on the grid. All the information at races.ferrari.com, with Benanati, Fangio and Ramelli occupying the final 3 positions that make up the 8-row grid for race number 2 in TropheoPirelli. Cars weave from side to side to try and promote some temperature into those Pirelli tyres on the formation lap. This is turn 1 from our helicopter then. As you can see, you turn into it and then it goes very, very uphill before you head to turn number 2, which is Luco, which is chicane through into Poggio Secco, turn 3. And then they head down towards Materazzi and Borgo San Lorenzo, turns 4 and 5, which are another chicane on this really quite challenging Mugello circuit. All the social media are on screen for you now. Then you start going downhill towards turn 6, Casanova, and then it's turn 7 right at the bottom of that hill before you start climbing again through Arabati 8 and Arabati 2, which is turn 9. See the cars climbing uphill now through Arrabbiati 1, Arrabbiati 2, and then downhill to Scarperia Pelagio before the Corinteo turn, which is turn number 12. There is one more chicane for the drivers to go through, which is the Biondetti chicane, which is turn number 13 before the final turn, Buccini, turn number 14, where again you're going very, very downhill. Now on the left-hand side of your screen, there is the marshal that tells all the cars to grid up behind the safety car, and Sam Smith champing at the bit in the all-yellow 458 to the outside then of our pole sitter, Bjorn Grossman. David Gosner also looking very lively as well. As they turn the Corinteo turn then and heading up towards this final chicane that they encounter before they complete a lap here at the Mugello circuit. So cars all in grid order, and if race control are completely happy with the formation of the cars, then the safety car is released into the pit lane and we'll be away and racing. And Matteo Santaponte, Babalus, former competitor in TropheoPirelli, is standing by there. He's the world final champion from last year, sadly not driving anymore, merely spectating from the garage as you saw. Okay, safety car will peel off to your left-hand side on screen right now. And we're about to go racing. Absolutely picture perfect start. It looks like the lights are thrown to the top of the screen. We await them to go from red to green. And that happens right now, and let's go racing. Philip Barron down the middle and is trying to make headway straight away. Sam Smith on the outside of Bjorn Grossman. And Philip Barron tucking in behind that Bjorn Grossman car, which could mean danger for Sam Smith. Then the AM driver. These are two pro drivers going through on the inside then, and Sam Smith hung out on the outside. David Gosner goes 3 abreast there with Alessandro Vezzoni trying to make a move as well. And he does that and does it very, very well. So Sam Smith trying to protect his position now from Philip Barron, who runs wide but has got the right line through the second part of that chicane. So Bjorn Grossman leads, and while all heck is breaking out behind him, there is Sam Smith, who's got Alessandro Vezzoni for company, and a early casualty with car number 74, which is Benanati, with damage to that. Doubtless we'll get a replay to see how that damage on the back end of the Benanati car happened. But he's certainly right at the back of the pack for the moment. So sure enough, let's take a look here at how Benanati got that damage. So going into turn number 1, these fantastic shots that we can bring you from our heli. Does that reveal? Not really. John Ferrano has gone round, and that's where and Benanati then went round as well. So it was kind of a double spin there, wasn't it? For John Ferrano first of all, and then Benanati, and Thomas O'Rourke was involved in that as well. And that's where the damage was occurred then, into the concrete wall for the Benanati car. So he's come straight into the pit lane. So the order is Grossman, Barron, Puglisi and Sam Smith. Then Sam Smith going back to places, regrettably. So Grossman, Barron, Puglisi, Smith, then the top 4. And here comes the first lap in the book then for Bjorn Grossman of this 30-minute TropheoPirelli race here in the sunshine in Mugello. Sam Smith with an absolutely blistering qualifying this morning put him on P2. Philip Barron using every single bit of the tarmac plus some more in his quest to chase down that Octane 126 driver Bjorn Grossman, who has already in the space of 1 lap a 1.453 second advantage over the P2 driver Philip Barron. And Puglisi is 2.3 seconds back on the leader, and Sam Smith 2.7. It's the Sam Smith car that we focused on then just for a moment, but there's our race leader Bjorn Grossman going through. Philip Barron chasing hard, but already what a margin that Bjorn Grossman has created in the space of but one lap. The car I mentioned yesterday, extremely well engineered by Octane 126 and extremely well driven by the German Bjorn Grossman. There's David Gosner, who's another one of those drivers that went absolutely backwards. He's down in P6 now, and he's chasing down Alessandro Vezzoni ahead of him in the number 27 car. So David Gosner then, one member of the four-strong Gosner family that race in the 458 Challenge. There's Andreas Segler in car number 32, running in P9. And there is the Benanati car, which looks like it's retired. The Style F Squadra Corsa driver and the engineers all looking at the back end of the car where it made impact with the concrete. Sadly, the concrete won. So here is Grossman then, perfect line through the chicane, taking the rumble strips perfectly well, and Philip Barron hastily chasing him down. Sam Smith is beginning to encroach on Marcello Puglisi ahead as you can see the battle unfold as we go on board with Marcello Puglisi over the rumble strips, pit in. We just pass on our left-hand side, and the margin between Grossman and Barron is 1.574. 1.574, the gap between P1 and P2. Closer battle is perhaps P3 and P4, which is what we're watching now. And also trying to buy into that is the Alessandro Vezzoni number 27 car. So Bjorn Grossman then, who is driving the perfect laps around the Mugello circuit, certainly did so in qualifying by putting that car on P1. I was talking yesterday to Christian Berchinger, the team principal of Octane 126, and he was saying that whilst the car and driver combination is extremely well engineered, that there is still more development to come from that car, he feels. So there is Philip Barron driving for Rosso Corsa, who is 1.9 seconds adrift now. Sam Smith is sticking with Marcello Puglisi, but at the moment Puglisi is not being terribly bothered by the AM driver Sam Smith, running there in car number 92 for the UK. So Grossman 2.3 seconds now over the latest timing line across sector 2, and fastest lap 1:54.281 on the last lap, and Grossman has already posted a best of everyone through sector 1. Not so distinctive through sector 2, but certainly not shabby, and as he closes sector 3 and completes another lap, we can expect that margin between himself and Philip Barron to have been increased still further. But now Sam Smith turning the wick up on the P3 driver Marcello Puglisi. There is Sam Smith for Stratstone Ferrari, being engineered by Anthony Cheshire's FF Corsa team. They had a slight disaster in the Copa Shell race earlier through no fault of his own. Wayne Mars ending up in the barriers with a severely damaged car. Thankfully, Wayne absolutely A-OK. So Puglisi then, the front end of the car, snatchy a bit under braking as they go through turn 1, that big uphill section, and Sam Smith trying to get on terms with Marcello Puglisi here. Bear in mind, Sam Smith is an AM driver and he's up against the 3 pro drivers ahead of him, so faring very, very well indeed, and he did all the hard work in qualifying, but now he has Puglisi ahead of him, who he has got to try and get rid of. Now, by dint of the fact that Sam is the best AM driver on track currently, is already guaranteed a podium, but to be on the pro podium would be fantastic as well, to be on the overall podium. This in replay then is Puglisi then just a little nerf into the side of the Sam Smith car there, as you can see. No damage done, thankfully. Both cars still performing absolutely fine, which is more than could be said for Andreas Zegler, who's out into the gravel, but gets the car going again. And a bit of opposite lock. Don't think that was entirely intentional, because I think he was hoping to rejoin the tarmac, and he's made a bit of a Horlicks of that, if truth be told. So that was the spin initially. So car comes to rest. Right, what we want to be doing now is turning right and getting ourselves back out onto the track, which was clearly what didn't happen. So Andreas Segler then right down to the bottom of the order now. There is Philip Barron. who is continuing his quest at the front with a margin of just under 3 seconds last time around, and I suspect that will have increased by another further couple of tenths as he crosses the timing line in but tenths of seconds from now. We'll get a live gap between Bjorn Grossman and Philip Barron. So Grossman crosses the timing line, Barron does so now, and in actual fact it's more than 2 tenths, it's 4 tenths that is increased. And the top speed then, faster than yesterday through the speed trap, 262 kilometers per hour for Bjorn Grossman. Here's John Ferrano then, up the inside of the number 87 car of Peter Noflak. Well, that becomes the outside, of course, when they get to turn number 1. So Ferrano needs to get this job done. He's got Tommaso Rocca right ahead of him, which means his way is blocked a bit. Now, he's done enough. He's able to get his nose in front of the number 87 car. So good move there from John Ferrano, another one of the AM drivers in the blue and orange liveried car, who is following Tommaso Rocca at the moment, and that's P9, 10 and 11 that you're looking at there. Here it is in replay. So set up this move there. First it was Tommaso Rocca, and then John Ferrano fancying a go at the same battle. Had to remain absolutely committed to this and have great deal of bravery, because all the way along the start-finish straight, you know that you're heading into turn 1, which if you're on the outside line there, that is not optimum. So good driving from John Ferrano and also Tommaso Rocca, who are both leaving the following car of Noflak in their wake a bit. So battle for third position in the AM category, which both Tommaso Rocca and John Ferrano are battling over right now. The final podium place for the AM drivers, 2 separate podiums to come right at the end of the race. One for the pro drivers, one for the AM drivers. And if you can find your way onto a step of the podium, then obviously that's huge, huge achievement in any Ferrari Challenge race. And that's exactly what both Tommaso Rocca and John Ferrano want to achieve. Sam Smith still within a second of Mugello Puglisi, chasing down P3. But chasing down Tommaso Rocca now is John Ferrano in that number 59 car. Here we go then, the long drag. First of all, it's uphill. Then you reach a crest now and start going downhill towards turn number 1. If John Ferrano can dip into the inside of Tommaso Rocca, but Rocca closes the door and makes sure that that little avenue is not open to him. Here's Bjorn Grossman then, driving perfect laps, just under 4 seconds ahead of Philip Barron in P2. It's car and driver combination that's absolutely spot on for Bjorn Grossman. And Philip Barron, multi-champion of course, is struggling to keep on terms, it has to be said, with that Rosso Corsa engineered car. Bjorn Grossman and Octane 126 just appear to have got it all dialed in absolutely perfectly. So there is Philip Barron, car number 91. Chasing down Bjorn Grossman, but Grossman now is 4.333 seconds to the good, and Mugello Puglisi now in P3 has seen off the challenge for the moment from Sam Smith, who shortly is going to have to be defending hard against Alessandro Vezzoni. Sam Smith, of course, leader in the AM category and mixing it with the pro drivers, and a very, very good account of himself. Sam Smith then, he was top step of the AM podium yesterday, and the way things are going should replicate that today. 154.032, the best time from Bjorn Grossman thus far. His last lap, a 155.130, and lapping consistently 4 tenths ahead of Philip Barron. There's Martin Nelson, who's P2 in the AM classification. And I mentioned right at the start of the program the beautiful blue and yellow livery of the Scuderia Auto Roper cars. And there is Martin Nelson, who had a torrid time of it in race 1 yesterday, having a better time of it in race 2. He's in P8 overall, but certainly up there in the AM classifications, P2 at the moment. So the Scuderia Auto Roper driver. Here's John Ferrano then chasing down Tommaso Rocca. But Tommaso Rocca appears at the moment to have the measure of John Ferrano. Battle for third position in the AM category then between the 2 Rosso Corsa drivers. Now, whilst they might both race for the team, same team, there's absolutely no team loyalty or orders here It's every driver for himself. Once the crash helmet is donned and the belts are strapped in, then every driver for himself. So Smith, Nelson, Roca and Farano the top four. Farano, of course, would like to make it top three so that he can once again be on the podium. Grossman now has extended his lead to over 6 seconds. Right at the front of the pack. Look at that, 6.009, extraordinary. Over Philippe Barron in P2, Puglisi. And there you can see from our helicopter shot just the gap between them all. And as we cross back to the battle with Alessandro Vezzoni and David Gosner, and behind David Gosner is Jan Dennis in the all-yellow machine. So there, the top 4 or 5 cars all really rather evenly spread out at the moment, not promoting too many battles out there, although David Gosner is just beginning to reel Alessandro Vezzoni in now. Gosner, absolutely brilliant drive yesterday. He was chasing down a podium place and achieved that. Ran wide a couple of times and had a brilliant save, which you may recall from the highlights right at the start of the program, where he was through the gravel but managed to hold on to the car. Battle for P4 then between Alessandro Vezzoni and David Gosner, and Sam Smith upping the ante just a bit as well as he continues to chase Marcello Puglisi ahead in that red machine there. And so the battle's beginning to develop. We get very nearly to the halfway stage in this race, which has been all about Philippe Barron, who is just his last lap, a 1:54.622 compared to Philippe Barron's 1:56.232. Everyone else pretty much in the 55s. Philippe Barron having a mare of a lap last time around, and that allowed Bjorn Grossman to increase still further his advantage he has right at the front. So there is Sam Smith then, an AM driver, continuing to chase down the third of the pros on track, and that's Marcello Puglisi. And Grossman then continuing, 7.282 the margin now. Absolutely extraordinary driving from the German, right at the front of the pack. Elsewhere, well, leading AMs is Sam Smith, followed by Martin Nelson and Tommaso Roca in the AM categories, not necessarily the order on track. And then it's Grossman, Barron and Puglisi leading in the pro category. Alessandro Vezzoni then that we watched there. And there is Sam Smith continuing to try and chase down Marcello Puglisi. And again, from the helicopter, you can see how going uphill, well, Smith appears to have the pace on Puglisi, but once they cross that crest and come downhill into turn number 1, doesn't seem to be quite so obvious. David Gosner chasing down Alessandro Vezzoni and really lighting up the front brake discs. And the top speed from David Gosner now through the speed trap, 265 kilometers per hour. So we are but 1 minute into the second half of this race, with 14 minutes of racing remaining for TropheoPirelli Race 2 across the weekend in the sunshine. And you just feel that Puglisi is beginning to get a bit scrappy now in P3 as the pressure from Sam Smith is continuing to be piled on upon him. There they are, centre screen right now. For my money, Smith is closer now than he's been for a number of laps. As we look at David Gosner, who's also doing the same job in terms of trying to keep the pressure and heap the pressure on Alessandro Vezzoni in P4. For my money, it's Smith on Puglisi that's just marginally closer at the moment. So there is David Gosner then. I mentioned he's one of a 4-strong Gosner family Ferrari racing team. His father Thomas and sisters Manuela and Corinna, both racing in Coppichelle, and David the one to elect in TropheoPirelli, and been very successful in TropheoPirelli as well. But David Gosner very soon will go from the hunter to being hunted, because it would appear that Jan Dennis is getting ever closer. John Frano has still not managed to find a way past the Tommaso Roca car for P3 in the AM category. Remains as they were last time we looked. Tommaso Roca then in a car that has the identical livery to that of Philippe Barron, who's in P2 in the race overall. is at the moment being able to hold off John Ferrano with relative ease. So Tommaso Roca and John Ferrano. It's 97 versus 59, and at the moment 97 got the measure of it around the final turn here, the Bucina turn, and head up towards the timing line once again to put another lap in the book of this 30-minute Ferrari Challenge TropheoPirelli race. It is round 2 here at Mugello. The season, as is traditional, starts at the Monza circuit, and from here we go to the famed Le Mans 24-hour event, where the Ferrari Challenge forms part of the support of the Le Mans 24-hour race. And that's the next event on the Ferrari Challenge calendar, which not only includes Le Mans but also Sochi in Russia, where the F1 guys are today, and also Hockenheim and Jerez de la Frontera in Spain, and then the glittering world final event in Daytona in the USA. Fantastic calendar produced for the Ferrari Challenge this year, that's for sure. And fantastic driving from Tommaso Roca and John Ferrano that we're watching at the moment. In replay, this is Bjorn Grossman, super slow-mo. He is the best of the pros by some measure at the moment. Great images. Best of the AMs is this man, Sam Smith, from Stratstone Ferrari, FF Corsa. Yesterday, his achievement of being the best AM driver was made all the more credible by virtue of the fact from turn 1 on the opening lap, Sam Smith had no power steering. So he ended up driving the entire 30-minute race and ended up with arms like Adonis because he got no power assistance on the steering at all. There is Bjorn Grossman. Let's get the gap for you now as Philip Barron crosses the timing line. Now 9.489 seconds. Bjorn Grossman has virtually checked out already, hasn't he? So Barron then some 9.489 down on the race leader, Bjorn Grossman, who's got it absolutely nailed. Jan Danis getting a little bit closer now to David Gosner. And that's the battle that's going on for P6. So there is Gosner then, and there is Jan Danis. Gosner with brilliant drive right towards the end of the race yesterday, overtaking Philip Barron to make sure that David Gosner was on the podium. At the moment, it's P6 for David Gosner. Sam Smith still not being able to find a way around Marcello Puglisi. The margin between the two of them is just 5/10, and the margin between David Gosner and Jan Danis is equally just 5/10. This is Fangio in car number 41 with Andreas Segler in car number 32. Battle for P6 in the AM category. Fangio and Segler. Segler all over the back of the Fangio car, who is a distant relative of Juan Manuel Fangio, the very famed racing driver. Dives to the inside now. Does Segler? Is there going to be contact between the two? Frederic Fangio, just 6 races contested. His best result, a 7th. And now as Fangio goes to turn in, he realizes that the gap he wants to turn into is full of the Andreas Segler car, and therefore cannot do that. So Segler goes ahead of Fangio for P12 on the track. And we're into the final 9 minutes or so of this race. The race that's being led by Bjorn Grossman, the German driver driving for the Octane 126 team, who has 10.1 seconds over the P2 driver Philip Barron, who drives a car with a similar livery to that. Tommaso Roca just going through, and John Ferrano also just going through into the final turn here at the Mugello circuit, the 5.245 kilometer challenging circuit with elevation changes and tight corners and places that you can definitely overtake, but it is difficult and a real challenge, but it's a challenge that all the Ferrari Challenge drivers absolutely love. They love this Mugello circuit. So from our helicopter, we're looking at Sam Smith chasing down Marcello Puglisi right now, and Alessandro Vezzoni just into that picture as well. He's not quite able to encroach on that battle between Philip Barron, Marcello Puglisi and Sam Smith. Not that it is much of a battle at the moment. There's about 5 car lengths between all parties involved in that, so it's as they were at the moment with Philippe Baron P2 going through. Puglisi goes through, then it's Smith, then it's Vezzoni, then it's Gosner, and then it is Jan Danis. Alessandro Vezzoni then, by dint of the fact that he won the AM category in TropheoPirelli last year, was elevated to become a pro driver this year, and to be fair has delivered a very fair account of himself across the first 2 race weekends. David Gosner, a pro driver in car number 50, running in P6, and then it's Jan Danis in the all-yellow 458, who's running in P7. These 458 cars powered by that 4,400cc mid-engine Berlinetta, and they're the Evo version of the 458 with that big rear wing, as you can see. Oh, just taking a look at the inside there, Andreas Zegler on Peter Noflak. So Noflak in the all-black machine, Andreas Zegler then in the Stylev Squadra Corsa lime green and white livery. Very little between the two of them in terms of lap time currently. Zegler just trying to really pressure Noflak into making a mistake. Through the chicane they go, both taking a little bit of the rumble strip. And Noflak having to drive with the rear view mirrors. Andreas Zegler tries to dive up the inside now. Is Noflak going to close the door? Well, Zegler's going to have the inside here, but that puts him on the outside for turn number 1. But it will matter not, because he carries more momentum through the exit of turn 14. And Andreas Zegler goes ahead of Peter Noflak as the graphics indicate, and they cross the timing line with just under 6 minutes of racing time left here at Mugello, as Peter Noflak now begins to try and fight back. Zegler scrubs the speed off nicely, is able to turn in without a problem, and heads up through the back end of Sondanato, heading into the Luca turn, which is turn number 2. Then it's Poggio Secchia, which is turn number 3, the back end of that chicane. And then Materazzi is the next turn that they will head to. So our helicopter picks up our P2 driver, Philippe Baron, who is some 11.6 seconds down on the race leader, Bjorn Grossman. There's Sam Smith just going through, and this is Alessandro Vezzoni, centre screen right now, who is running in P5. In the pro category, it's Grossman, Baron and Puglisi. In the AM category, it's Smith, Nelson and Roca in that order in the 2 separate categories, but on track it's Grossman, Baron, Puglisi, Smith, then it's Vezzoni, Gosner, Danis, Nelson, Roca and Frano occupying the top 10 positions. So Alessandro Vezzoni has seen off what was a challenge and charge from David Gosner maybe 3-4 laps ago, and also Philippe Baron has been able to keep keen Marcello Puglisi behind him. Hasn't caused too much of a problem, and Sam Smith equally is not really able to get on to Puglisi, which means it's all left for them just to follow in each other's wake at the moment, with no real battles going on. Philippe Baron and Puglisi perhaps the closest, but even so there's 7 or 8 tenths between the two of them, so there's no real hard challenge coming between the two. Of course, it could come to a last lap lunge, couldn't it? There, the gap, as you can see, it's seesawing a bit, gone from 1.3 seconds to 8 tenths now over the last 3 laps or so. But even so, nothing like close enough for Puglisi to be able to have a go on Philippe Baron. Hyper slow-mo here in replay of the Rosso Corsa cars. Both drivers driving for the Rosso Corsa team, of course the team that runs Stefano Guy, the successful GT racer. So Grossman with 12.5 seconds to the good over Philippe Baron, who is running in P2, and our helicopter picking up some fantastic shots through that chicane they go. Back downhill, carrying so much speed and trying to get the car to hug the inside, which is difficult, and then back uphill again, and they run towards the outside as this uphill stretch towards the crest, which comes just after the timing line before they start going downhill again into turn number 1. And All of the drivers there using the chevrons, as you can see, which is all okay as long as you keep two wheels the right side of the white line, then that's absolutely fair. When it comes to qualifying yesterday, it was turn number 11 where the track limits were often being exceeded, and several drivers had their fastest laps taken away because of going outside of the track limits as they carried so much speed through turn number 11. John Farano then continuing to chase down Tommaso Rocca, and this for the final podium place in the AM category. It's P3 and P4 in AM. Tommaso Rocca and John Farano, both Rosso Corsa drivers. So they're the livery of the number 59 John Farano car, and we're under 2 minutes left of racing. Grossman leading by 12, make that 13 seconds now over Philippe Barron, who's 6/10 down on Marcello Puglisi, who has that 6/10 margin, does Barron. Then it's a further 4/10 before we see Sam Smith in P4. But this is our race leader, who has not put one wheel wrong during the course of this race. The Octane 126 driver, Philippe Barron, chasing him down, but Bjorn Grossman got it all completely in control to the tune of some 13 seconds. And as he crosses the timing line, I would think this time around it will become the last lap of the race, I suspect, because he had crossed the timing line with less than the distance of a lap in terms of time available. So yes, absolutely confirmed as the last lap then that Philippe Barron crosses the timing line. Now we are on the final lap of this TropheoPirelli race from the Ferrari Challenge here at Mugello. Grossman with just under 13 seconds to the good. This is the leader in the AM Championship, Sam Smith from Stratstone Ferrari, engineered by Anthony Cheshire's FF Corsa team. Did a really, really good job in qualifying. Qualified P2 on the grid, has ended up in the race P4 overall, but certainly by far and away the winner in the AM category, assuming he can hold on for the remainder of this lap. And another success story to come for the UK then, because Sam Smith having a good time of it yesterday as well, taking the win, which follows his first win of the season, which was in race 2 at Monza. But here, without putting anything wrong at all, is Bjorn Grossman. Be another fantastic victory for him. He took the win yesterday. He had P3 in race 1 at Monza, had a torrid time of it in race 2 at Monza, but here at Mugello, he has utterly proved his dominance, without question. As I said yesterday, the car and driver combination, absolute perfection at the moment. Still a long way to go in the championship, though. This is doing his championship hunt no harm at all then. He is the current TropheoPirelli champion, and on this evidence today, could well do it 2 in a row, couldn't he? Bjorn Grossman crosses the line then and takes the win as the checkered flag falls on Bjorn Grossman for Octane 126. Here's Philippe Barron then, who is running in P2, heading towards the checkered flag. He will take P2 from Marcello Puglisi, P3. Sam Smith then is P4 overall, but takes the win in the AM category. Then it will be Alessandro Vezzoni, P5, David Gosner, P6, Jan Danis, P7, before we see, it should be Martin Nelson that will take P2 in the AM Challenge. And, well, Tommaso Rocca is going to hold on to that place. Here is Martin Nelson, there is Tommaso Rocca. So John Farano is going to be denied a podium in the race today in the AM category. So the top 10 have all come through now as the checkered flag remains out, and the marshals then, with all their flags, salute all the drivers in that TropheoPirelli race number 2 across the weekend. Incredible dominance from Bjorn Grossman, 14.2 seconds his winning margin. Sam Smith then the winner in the AM category for Stratstone Ferrari. There he is. Fine performance once again from Sam Smith as the cars all head towards the pit lane. Martin Nelson and John Ferrano then, and David Gosner into the pit lane and into Parc Fermé. No podium today for David Gosner. However, we go on board with Marcello Puglisi, looking backwards because he is heading towards the podium, which is situated literally just a couple of meters from our commentary position here in Mugello. And Bjorn Grossman will be heading towards the number 1 sign. There's Philippe Barron, and here comes Sam Smith to park up for the AM category. Out of the car is Marcello Puglisi. Another fine drive. And here's Philippe Barron being congratulated on his P2. That's great to see. Absolutely nothing that he could take to Bjorn Grossman today. And here is Bjorn Grossman then, our race winner. The risk of repeating myself, 14.280 seconds, the margin that this Octane 126 driver had over over Philippe Barron in P2. So extraordinary success for Bjorn Grossman, who slots his car into the number 1 spot in Parc Fermé. Engine off, and there is Christian Berchinger, the boss of Octane 126, going to be the very first person to congratulate his driver for doing a fantastic job. Look at that. Great respect and admiration for each. And it was like a rocket. Number 97 then, Tommaso Rocca, making his way into the pit lane. And here is the official classification then in the 2 categories. It was Grossman, Barron and Puglisi in Pro, and then Smith, Nelson and Rocca in the AMs. So race 2 category, top 3 in both classifications. And there is Philippe Barron. Tommaso Rocca then switches off his engine. And he'll be back on the podium again in the AM category. And Martin Nelson, also in the AM category, will be on the podium for Scuderia Autoropa. So Martin pretty pleased with himself. Drivers are all being hustled off towards the podium area. Wonderful. Okay, let's take a look at the highlights of the race right now. As the lights went from red to green, it was Philippe Barron that was on a charge and on the move, but Bjorn Grossman seemed to have it all completely under control as they went into turn 1. Sam Smith was once again on the outside, and that was always going to be disadvantageous for him as all heck broke out loose behind as John Ferrano went around. And there was damage to the Benanati car, number 74 as well, following a collision into the concrete barriers. Well, this man, Bjorn Grossman, it was a masterclass in how to drive the Mugello circuit, truthfully, because he didn't put a foot wrong. John Ferrano trying to fight his way back up the order following his pirouette, and first of all he had to dispose of Peter Noflak, which he did with this very brave move around the outside. And then the hunt was on to Tommaso Rocca to see if John Ferrano could secure a podium position in race number 2 here in Mugello. Philippe Barron and Marcello Puglisi, top 3 in the Pro category when you consider Bjorn Grossman the race leader, and Sam Smith in the yellow car right at the back of the picture was the best of the AM drivers. But it was, as I said, another absolute masterclass from this man who took the win, followed by Philippe Barron and Marcello Puglisi. Grossman had time for a cheese and pickle sandwich on his way round because he had got 14.2 seconds advantage over Philippe Barron. Extraordinary driving. So we're into the paddock now, and here is the Drivers' Championship. It's tight at the top now, 65 points, place 64. Philippe Barron still leading by 65 points, but it's only a 1-point margin over Bjorn Grossman. Then it's David Gosner, Marcello Puglisi, Babalus, sadly no longer racing. Then it's Alessandro Vezzoni and Jan Danis that the Pro Drivers' Championship. We'll bring you the AM Drivers' Championship in due course as well. So, as we see the cars in Parc Ferme, we will be going up to the podium next. So podium being ready just to the right-hand side. In fact, if Pia, who's my assistant alongside me, chose to wave out the window at that point, you'd have actually seen her. However, she didn't. Right, podium then. And here we go as Marcello Puglisi heads up onto the third step of the podium. There's Philippe Baron. And Bjorn Grossman on the top step of the podium. And not for the first time this weekend, out comes the Octane 126 representative. And also not for the first time this weekend, we will be hearing the German national anthem. So national anthem plays out. Here comes the trophy presentations then. Francesco Bianchi then, the head of Ferrari EMEA, makes the trophy presentations. First of all to Puglisi, then to Philippe Baron, and then of course to the race winner, Bjorn Grossman. Fantastic race win from Bjorn Grossman. 2 podiums to come, of course. There is the Pro podium, which we watch at the moment. Then it will be the AM podium as well. In between podiums, of course, someone appears with a mop to wipe up the champagne. The Pirelli trophy going to Bjorn Grossman also. All together for the focus of the world's media attention and photographs now. Don't forget, we're off to Le Mans next. And Grossman wins the race of the champagne as well. And this is where the cleaner arrives to just clean it up, ready for the AM podium. Let's take a super slow-mo look at the top 3 then. Marcello Puglisi, the Rosso Corsa driver, bringing home P3. P2, also for Rosso Corsa, it's Philippe Baron. And then for Octane 126, no disputing the winner, Bjorn Grossman. So podium 1 done and dusted. Podium 2 to come, which is for the AM category of drivers. And on the top step, it's going to be Sam Smith for the UK. And here then is the AM Drivers' Championship, which is being led by Sam Smith on 85 points, Martin Nelson on 54, then it's John Ferrano and Tommaso Roca, and then it's Segler Benanati, James Fisher, Peter Noflak, Giuseppe Ramelli and Frederic Jean-Marie Fangio, who, as I said, is a distant cousin of the legendary Juan Manuel Fangio, I believe. There's Martin Nelson for Scuderia Autoropa, congratulating Tommaso Roca. And here comes Sam Smith for the UK. And for FF Corsa, let's hear the UK national anthem. National anthem plays out for Sam Smith then, victorious once again this weekend in the AM category. Here comes the trophy presentations. First of all to Tommaso Rocca, who takes P3. And then it is Martin Nelson, who takes P2. But the race winner, Sam Smith. A dominant weekend he's had and now leads the AM Championship as we head off to Le Mans, literally in a few weeks' time, in support of the famous 24-hour race. There goes the beautiful Pirelli trophy. Sam, I hope you're not on hand luggage only, friend. Might have to get the team to take your trophies back for you. You've had a good haul this weekend. I have to say, when it comes to champagne spraying, Tommaso Rocca is the absolute master. He gets his thumb perfectly over the end of the bottle and creates the most perfect fan. Brilliant. And here is his car. Exactly the same livery as that of Philippe Barron. Martin Nelson then, as we take these super slow-mos of the 3-2-1 on the AM podium. And Sam Smith then, the winner for Stratstone Ferrari and FF Corsa. Sam has pleasingly been able to put together a campaign for the entire season this year and has a real gun for the title, in my opinion. So good luck to you, Sam. You've done a fine weekend here in Mugello. There, as if by magic, the next event, Le Mans, 17th to the 19th of June. All the information at races.ferrari.com. So we'll be heading off to Le Mans and that incredible circuit where both the TropheoPirelli cars and the Copa Shell cars will be racing together on the same track in support of the Le Mans 24-hour race. So the Ferrari cars will appear just ahead of the 24-hour race getting underway. So very, very exciting, as is the rest of the calendar, to be fair. As we look at some hypermotion images, it's Le Mans, then it's Sochi in Russia, Hockenheim in Germany, Jerez de la Frontera in Spain, and then the glittering world final weekend and conclusion of the championships in Daytona, Florida, USA. Not a bad place to be in December. So it's a very exciting calendar to mirror the exciting nature of Ferrari Challenge racing. And the TropheoPirelli race today won by an incredible 14.280 second margin by Bjorn Grossman. Taking some shots of the Mugello circuit then, always a favourite with the race fans and the race drivers too. Thank you so much for being part of the Ferrari Challenge this weekend, and make sure you join us at Le Mans for their next event in the middle of June. From me and all the team, bye-bye for now.